Namaskar, friends. Did the world just discover that 20,000 sailors, a 34-kilometer stretch of water, and one country have more control over your life than your own government? Because right now, oil prices, food prices, flight tickets, even fertilizer for farmers, all of it is being decided in the narrow strip of water. And in the last 24 hours, the strait opened, market exploded, and then just like that, it shut again. To break this down, I am joined by someone who has been tracking this crisis in real time, not just the politics, but the shipping data, the energy flows, and the military signaling. Because this isn't geopolitics anymore. This is a global system under stress. I am proud to be joined by Dr. Adityanjee, President of the Council for Strategic Affairs. Welcome, Dr. Adityanjee. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Sinha, for inviting me again on Global Focus to discuss this challenging issue that the entire world is confronting.
Let me start with most uncomfortable question. Did we just witness a complete illusion of control? The state opens, markets celebrate, and within hours, everything collapses again. What actually happened in those few hours? Do you have any idea?
So, first important issue is who do we refer to as we?
Well, we means we all, the global citizen, not
Because
we.
we, the people, do not include the persons who are instrumental in causing this conflict
All right,
or war,
all right.
war of choice,
Yeah,
unnecessary war, which is leading to these. So, let's not attribute blame to us, we the people,
yeah,
but to those megalomaniacs who are orchestrating this. So that is number one issue.
yeah.
But yes, it is true that there was a whiplash reaction to the announcements done very impulsively on Twitter or on so-called Truth Social or other social media platforms,
Yeah.
but which were contradicted by both the sides, one side putting maximalist demands.
Mm,
With this very interesting thing.
mm,
On Friday, Mr. Trump said Strait of Hormuz is completely open, and Iranians have said they will never ever again weaponize Strait of Hormuz,
mm,
and they will deliver all the enriched uranium to United States.
mm,
And that was contested, of course, by Iran. The foreign minister had earlier said, Abbas Araghchi, the Strait of Hormuz is open. But the moment he saw that tweet by Trump, he said, only if the entire terms of ceasefire are, met with,
mm.
which means that United States naval blockade of Iranian ports will cease to happen. But 20 minutes before the announcement by Mr. Trump on April 17th, 20 minutes before, somebody short sold on oil, making $760 million.
Oh my God.
On April 7th,
Yeah.
just hours before US Iran ceasefire was declared, somebody shorted on oil $950 million. Somebody who knew this was going to be announced on the stock market. March 23rd, just 15 minutes before Trump delayed the strikes on Iran, when he was saying that, the entire civilization will be wiped out, kind of thing, $500 million somebody shorted. What is happening here? Somebody is making money based on these impulsive announcements. Somebody who knows in advance. It is anybody's guess who's making this money. There is another angle to it. We saw a tweet by Mr. Trump in which he says that Pakistan has to deliver the agreement with Iran. Otherwise, the $8 billion that has been arranged for Pakistan through Gulf allies will be withdrawn. So they
Yeah.
better behave and they better. So the so called mediator is not really a mediator, it's a lapdog that has been forced to toe US line,
Yeah.
forced to go run to Tehran, try
Mm.
to convince the Iranian leadership, make premature announcements or make premature conclusions and convey that to Mr. Trump. So there is a very funny thing going on. I think what is happening that both the sides want some face-saving solution,
Mm.
and in that process, United States has coerced
Mm.
Pakistan because Pakistan has its weaknesses to take the role of a mediator, basically what is called in United States to indulge in what is called CYA factor. And for your viewers based in India, I can tell you what is CYA. It is covering your anatomy. And they can mean something else also. So somebody is being forced to cover somebody's anatomy by making these quote unquote mediatory talks and jaunts to Tehran, to Gulf Council countries, whether it's the prime minister or the field marshal, not field marshal, because they are being forced by United States to indulge in that role.
Yes.
So interesting things are happening,
Mm.
but I don't see a big breakthrough happening
Mm.
because both sides are still making maximalist demands. On Iranian side, the political leadership is not under control of the IRGC. And when for few hours the Strait of Hormuz opening was declared, actually IRGC fired on two merchant shipping vessels that happened to be Indian flagged. One was Jug Arnav, and second is what is called VLCC, very large crude container. And the name is, I think, Samner Harold. And that was carrying 2 million barrels of oil, crude oil from Iraq destined to India. And if you see the radio recordings, uh, the crew are saying that you gave IRGC or the Iranian Navy, SEPA Iran, you gave us permission to go ahead, and now you're firing on us. Let me go back. They did fire, and I think MEA did call the Iranian ambassador. But with those firings on two vessels, Strait of Hormuz is effectively closed, uh, despite hundreds of ships being stranded with 20,000 sailors in the Strait of Hormuz, or not necessarily Strait of Hormuz, but Persian Gulf, carrying loads of crude oil, loads of fertilizer, loads of other supplies, urea, sulfur, what have you. These ships are stranded. They cannot be there independently because these ships are running potable water, soft water supplies, food supplies. So both sides are taking maximalist demands. Trump wants a face saving formula where he can declare victory. And unfortunately, despite the attempts, clumsy attempts by his Pakistani lapdogs, whether it's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif or self proclaimed field marshal, things are not going in the right way. There was some speculation that on Friday, after conclusion of the talks, the field marshal will fly to Washington, D.C., and then, you know, have a conversation with Trump, and then Trump will travel to Pakistan to sign a, so-called agreement in Islamabad. Didn't happen because Iranians, did not agree to maximalist demands. And Iran, it's the IRGC which is calling the shots. Uh, Trump has said that if there is no ceasefire agreement, final agreement signed at the end of 2 weeks of ceasefire, which ends, I think, on April 22nd. So on April 23rd, bombing will resume. Let's see what happens. The USS aircraft carrier formation, USS Gerald R. Ford, is back in Middle East. It had been damaged, had gone to, I think, Cyprus, Crete in Cyprus for repairs. It's back there. US 16 or 20 naval ships are at the opening in Gulf of Oman of the Strait of Hormuz. Let's see how much ammunition United States has been able to replenish on its CENTCOM naval ships to resume the bombing in Iran, and how much tenacity the IRGC has to continue the situation like this. But I'm afraid this conflict is getting prolonged. I don't see any easy solutions because both sides are desperate for so called victory.
I think they are desperate for victory and they are desperate for solution, stopping of this war anyhow. Even the Iran is not in very good shape, I think.
Well, either party is not in good shape. Iran has been, decimated. Their armed forces,
Mhm.
their, air force was very old. That has been totally neutralized, except for the drones and some ballistic missiles. All the fighter aircrafts have been destroyed. Infrastructure has been destroyed. Iranian Navy has been destroyed. What they have is what is called uh, uncrewed surface vehicles like drone boats, and they have ample of supply of that. So that is what they are using. They have, laid mines in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is not in a good shape. That everyone knows. That Iranians also know. Yet they are resolute, and there are differences between political leadership and the military leadership, which is IRGC. Having said that, IRGC does not want to bargain away certain fundamental principles. Trump is in a bind because he faces this election and midterm election. There is impact on not just stock market but on day-to-day inflation, cost of living, prices of gas on the pump, prices of food. Everything is becoming costlier. The economy is not in a very good shape despite some hirings in month of March, increased hirings in month of March, but overall situation is not good. He needs a face saving device because United States is spending almost 1 to 2 billion dollars per day on this war. They are forced to increase the budget, defense budget, to 1.5 trillion in 2027. Things are not good for either side, and if no one is willing to budge, things will continue. It will become a prolonged conflict. Now,
And
Iran was able to leverage this closure of Strait of Hormuz to stop Israel from bombing southern Lebanon. They did have that leverage, and Trump was forced to say to Israel, enough is enough. You must stop bombing southern Lebanon because you cannot have, Iran or Iranian leadership negotiate with one party of the war, but not the second, sidekick of the war, which is Israel.
mm,
I think it was totally disingenuous to say, oh, Lebanon is not included. Israel will continue to do what it wants to do. So Iran used the leverage, and I'm talking as a neutral neutral analyst rather than in support of Iran. So problem is not that easy as it sounds to be.
and it also looks laughable for the kinds of the leaders, these international leaders. They are going to social media to deal with such an issue, actually, such a crisis. They
I
should.
think this is a modern phenomenon in Trump's La La Land, that he wants to conduct diplomacy by tweets
Mm,
or social media. Classical diplomacy is done in private,
yeah.
you have back channel discussions and all that sort of thing, and everything is deliberated upon. If certain communiques or press releases are issued, they are very carefully worded, not at 3 a.m. somebody impulsive putting a tweet, making a decision. So that complicates the process. Also, when you use mediators, the mediators need to have leverage with both the parties. In this case, the mediator has total lack of trust with both the parties. Although one party can coerce it, but they know that this mediator is a basically uh, unreliable ally who will sell them for money to anyone. And as far as Iran is concerned, Iran is a Shia country, Pakistan is 85% Sunni. There have been actually atrocities on Shia population in Pakistan, and in January of 2024,
Mm.
Pakistan had bombed Iran, in which I think 10 or 12 people got killed. So Iranian establishment actually does not trust Pakistan. So
Mm.
that is not a good, you know, mediator. And that has been pointed out from some people from the West, especially Switzerland, that has been handling the diplomatic affairs for United States since the US embassy was closed in Iran in 1980 onwards. Switzerland has been the via media between Iran and United States, exchanging diplomatic messages and uh, encrypted messages. The other complication that has come out that France and United Kingdom have created a coalition of 49 countries in post ceasefire situation to help keep the transport going on in Strait of Hormuz. And they also met in Paris, I think, on April 17th. And this was a sore point for US president because US was excluded from that. So there are multiple things going on at the same time,
Mm.
and it is a very complicated situation.
So 20% of the world's oil, nearly half of some key commodities, all passing through this one choke point.
Hmm.
Are we looking at the biggest supply shock in modern history? Bigger than 1973? Bigger than anything we have seen?
Well, that is, if the conflict continues, that will be possible scenario. As far as Saudi Arabia is concerned, Saudi Arabia has this east-west pipeline,
You see.
and that carries quite significant amount of Saudi Arabian oil that was damaged actually by Iranian attacks. And then there is Strait of this Red Sea channel from which Suez Canal, Saudi Arabia can actually export oil. So that is definitely there. And then there's another strait called Bab el Mandeb. You know, Houthis did not join the war initially, but now they have been angling and they control this particular strait, Bab el Mandeb. So if that also gets choked, then there's a problem. So it is in the interest of the globalized international economy to find a solution. Otherwise, we are looking at global recession,
Yes.
not just decimating of Iranian economy, not US economy going south, but it will have impact on global economies, especially Asian and African economies, because they are very vulnerable to energy supplies. United States does not get actually oil from Strait of Hormuz because they are self-sufficient and they are actually exporters of gas and hydrocarbons at this point in time. But the economies of countries like India, China, Japan, Bangladesh, Philippines, Indonesia, they will all be affected. Gulf countries are being affected because they don't have food supplies.
Yeah.
They have to airlift the food, whether it's fresh vegetables or grains, etc., because Strait of Hormuz is closed, open and close at the same time. And I just looked at news from Europe. European airlines are saying that they have jet fuel only for 6 weeks more. And those jet fuels, they are sort of procured through long term contracts. And most of the GCC countries are sort of invoking force majeure clauses because they cannot supply, it's beyond their control. Europe does not produce its own jet fuel. So there is no part of the world which will be left unaffected if this war is not brought to conclusion and peace prevails in that region. And the way things are getting prolonged, the way maximalist demands are being made from both the sides, it does not look likely that peace will come, clearly in short period of time. Although one hopes it happens, but it doesn't look like, because both parties have to step back and compromise and not put maximalist demands. There are no confidence building measures from the US side. If you want to engage Iran, you have to have some confidence building measures.
Right.
And they are not there.
Right. So I have a related question. $20 billion lost every single day. So what do you think, at what point does this stop being an energy crisis and become a full-blown global economic emergency?
Look, we can do these calculations, they are kind of meaningless. And there's not like one threshold. We are already seeing the effects. Countries have, shortened the work weeks. There are emergencies. There are long lines for petrol on the gas pumps or petrol pumps I was looking at Indonesia, long lines. The prices of gas in United States have gone up 20 to 25%, although they are self-sufficient. So it's not an issue of when does this become, it is already there. Global economy is suffering. IMF estimates are that economies will start shrinking. So there has to be a solution. And if there's no solution, we are looking at 2026 being an year of recession all over the world.
Now, coming to the point that hardly anyone is talking about, let's talk about something almost invisible in all this: 20,000 seafarers stuck. What's actually happening to these people right now? And are they effectively trapped in a war zone?
Of course, they are. They are trapped because if they go through Strait of Hormuz, they'll be fired upon. I did allude to it that they are running short on supplies, food supplies, fresh water supplies, and how long they can last. Ultimately, maybe rescue efforts will have to be made to save the lives of sailors. Either you have to drop the food and fresh water, or you have to extract them out of those vessels and leave them unmanageable. So these are not good choices. Effectively, in any war scenario, any simulation, US knew that if you have conflict with Iran, Iran will leverage by closing the Strait of Hormuz. I have read articles by numerous military Pentagon, former Pentagon officials, retired military veterans. They all said, and retired diplomats, they all said that in the past, none of the presidents would do it because they knew that Iran will leverage by closing the Strait of Hormuz, and this would be the effect. And Mr. Trump, in his impulsivity, did not think that will, because they thought that Iran will come to its knees within 2-3 days. We will destroy the infrastructure and they'll come back crying uncle. They didn't realize this scenario, and that was actually lack of foresight in military planning.
I just want to talk a bit about the American political system. How come the whole Senate and whatever the political system they are having, no one is able to do anything interfere what the president is doing?
Because at this juncture, all the three, institutions, the executive office, which is presidency, the House of Representatives, and the Senate are controlled by one party, which is Republican Party, that is deferential to the current US president and is not exercising its powers, the legislative powers. Ideally, by law, US Congress has to declare war if there is a war. Trump initially said it's not a war, it's a little excursion. I mean, you can say anything, but it is a war. I mean, you cannot fool by a play of words. And the Congress, Congress is the US Parliament, controlled by Republican Party, is refusing to allow to pass a resolution to end this war, or because Congress has the authority to pass a resolution to start a war or to terminate a war or stop the funding for war. So numerous legislative mechanisms are being used by the Republican Party to stop any discussion in the legislative chambers. So it's unfortunate that people are more beholden to their party rather than national interests. Although the national interests are being harmed in US, economy is going south, prices are going high, there's inflation, the prices of gas are high, food prices are shot up, employers are not hiring new hirees. So it is having its impact.
Now, again, I am coming to these seafarers. There is no headlines, no attention. Why does the global system depend so heavily on these people who are almost completely ignored?
So who are you asking? Who is going to shed tears on them, Iran or United States?
No, not. I am talking about the system.
What
Completely,
system?
uh,
We
the
say as if system is totally independent. No, system is not independent. What system you're talking about is creation of post-war World War II imperial powers that were victorious. Is the same system is happening. Yes, there are some dissensions within the system. Now, EU countries not having eye to eye, not agreeing eye to eye with United States. But every war has a casualty. Civilians are casualty. 168 girls were killed in a single missile strike on a school in Iran by United States. Who is talking about them? War crimes are being committed by all the sides, all the sides. You bomb the civilian infrastructure, you bomb a bridge. All three countries involved, Iran, Israel, and United States, have targeted civilian infrastructure.
now here is the story changes. This isn't just one blockade; it's two. The US says it's enforcing the blockade, and the Iran says it controls the strait. So who actually has the authority there?
So Iran is the resident power, is the resident naval power, so they have leverage there. US has strong muscle, naval muscle. They have 11 large aircraft carriers. Three of them are now in the Middle East region.
Mm.
So they can effectively do the blockade from Gulf of Oman. And they were saying that they will allow all traffic except for that originating from Iranian port and Iranian flag vessels, but they will allow everything. Iran had allowed the transport of merchant vessels and VLCCs belonging to China, India, Japan, Pakistan, and some other friendly nations. So blockade was selective. But yes, there are two blockades going on. As far as who controls, you have to look at the international law. And international law allows innocent passage. Now, innocent passage basically is friendly vessels or merchant vessels are allowed to pass through. But what is that international law? That is UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on Laws of Sea. Now, interesting thing is that people are talking about international law. United States is a country that has been a signatory to UNCLOS but has not ratified since 1982. US Senate refuses to ratify it. Same situation is with Iran, that Iranian government initially signed on it but did not ratify the UNCLOS. Israel has not done that. UAE has not done that. So when you talk about international law, is international law universally accepted? If you don't ratify the treaty, you are effectively not part of the treaty. You cannot have it both ways, that we want international law to be obeyed, but we will not ratify the treaty. So almost pretty much all the parties involved in this conflict, or war, I should say, have
Mm.
not ratified the UNCLOS treaty. So
Mm.
how would you enforce UNCLOS? We have a situation that China, which is, a signatory and has ratified UNCLOS, actually went against the decision of UNCLOS in Philippines case.
Mm.
So question comes, when you say who controls under international law, who enforces the international law, who has the authority to enforce the international law? Parties that are not agreeing to abide by it, parties that have not ratified it. So here comes the ultimate irony,
Mm.
that people are invoking, oh, Iran is doing this. Yes, Iran does not have any right to block it. Let me put it this way.
Yeah.
But they are militarily leveraging because they are the resident naval power in that area.
Mm. So is this the moment countries like India, China, and Japan realize they can't rely on this system anymore?
Yes.
Can they do anything about it?
Well, I have a solution and I have put it in writing. I have published a paper. Everyone knew that Strait of Hormuz will be blocked if there's a conflict, if there's a war with Iran. You know, you can do something. It cannot be done in 1 week. It will require years of work. You can dig a Hormuz bypass canal on east from Gulf of Oman and
Mm.
on west in Persian Gulf. And in that paper called The Hormuz Dilemma, I suggested three possible alignments that engineers and geologists and specialists can look into. So you can dig possibly one of the three channels. First channel from East Gulf of Oman can run from Hisn al-Dibba to Ras al Khaimah on the west coast. And the length of that man-made canal would be only 22 miles, but it will be nearest to Iran. And the two countries which will be involved would be Oman and UAE in all three channels, digging this bypass man-made canal. Second channel can be from east from Gulf of Oman from Al Fakkan to Al Kewan. And the length of that man-made canal would be 50.29 miles. And lastly, the most secure, the most south into the Gulf countries would be channel number 3, which is from Al Fujairah to Sharjah. And that would be 62.15 miles. So there is need for proper thinking after this war concludes.
Yeah.
The six GCC countries should
Mm.
invest in creating a man-made canal that totally bypasses the Strait of Hormuz. And
Mm.
if I use comparative figures,
Mm.
Suez Canal is 120.1 mile long.
Mm.
Panama Canal is even shorter. It's only 51 miles. So if you have Hormuz bypass canal being dug, being man-made, it may take maybe 5 to 10 years to dig it, but then you forever eliminate this Strait of Hormuz dilemma, just like, You have Malacca dilemma for China, and China and Thailand have been talking about creating a man-made canal called they have talked about, actually Thai royal family has talked about it for 200 years, but because of geological reasons and cost, because the area is mountainous and you don't want to subdivide south and north of Thailand into two separate zones, it
Mm.
has not been workable. But this Hormuz bypass canal is workable, not too long. uh, Gulf Cooperation countries or GCC, Gulf Council countries, there are 6 countries. They have enough money and resources using outside technology
Mm.
to dig a man-made canal to bypass the Hormuz Strait altogether. But time to do it is not now because there's active hostility going on. Once the war is over,
Yeah.
then these countries need to plan that, we learned one bad lesson at this time. We will create an infrastructure, naval infrastructure or canal infrastructure that would not blackmail us in future.
Mm.
And they can be joint sovereignty of GCC countries. In
Mm.
fact, it could be an international canal. Even countries like Japan, China, India can finance it because it is affecting the oil supply, hydrocarbon supplies to entire Asia. So at an international level, barring aside US, you know, led system, if
Yeah.
there is need for fresh thinking, I think Asian countries need to talk to GCC countries. And once the hostilities and the war is over, create a permanent infrastructure that does not rely on Strait of Hormuz.
I have 1 minute. Let me ask you one final question. Are we witnessing a temporary crisis or a permanent shift in how power works in the real world?
Power works by use of power. The only international law is might is right. All the powerful countries forget about international laws in the time of war, and you are witnessing another reflection of that. So I'm not surprised. Unfortunately, when war happens, this is what, all the nice words, all the diplomatic niceties, the rule based order, everything disappears. We have seen that earlier also in Afghanistan when, prisoners were maltreated, or
Mm.
in Iraq or whatever, or in Yugoslavia, former Republic of Yugoslavia, when again United States had targeted civilian infrastructure, claiming that this civilian infrastructure is enforcing the military of